Hi guys, welcome to the archive. So this video I'm going to go through how I paint stone, as most of my initial terrain videos use this technique and I thought I would cover it once rather than going over it and over it and over it again. I picked up these craft paint colours and wash mix from Blackmagic Craft's tutorial, which I'll link below, though I've used a variant of this for a long time while painting miniatures, though that was with miniature paint, not craft paint. Though the bulk of it is similar, I did strip out a few washes to make the process a little faster to do en masse. Before I start the walkthrough, I'm going to quickly go over how to make the black wash that I used in the video. The recipe I use for this is not one that I came up with. I got the formula from Blackmagic Craft, who in turn got it from a guy called Les. If you want to see the recipe he made in more detail, I'd recommend checking out Blackmagic Craft's channel if you haven't already. He does a good walkthrough of it, which I've condensed here to make sure that this guide is complete. If you've already made his wash, you're good to go. All you need is some water, flow aid, matte medium, a container or dropper bottle to make it in, and the carbon black and transparent burnt umber acrylic inks. If you don't plan on using it immediately, I'd use distilled water or your wash might go stagnant. I've included links to all of these things below where I can. To make it, simply fill the container halfway full of water, then mix in flow aid in a 10:1 ratio. After that, add some matte medium in a 60:40 ratio of water to matte medium. So don't completely fill your container essentially, just leave a little bit at the top. Finally, we add some colour. Add black ink in batches of about 10 drops and test it until it reaches a darkness that you're happy with. I'd recommend putting out some miniature wash like dark tone or Nuln Oil onto a palette and comparing and contrasting it with the version you're making. Once they look similar, add 10 to 20 drops of the burnt umber ink to add some more natural tones. Test it again and you should be good to go. Once you have your wash, we can make a start on the stone. We'll need Mod Podge, our black wash, and black, tan, neutral grey, white, and raw sienna acrylic paints. Most local craft stores will stock a variant of these or a close colour. I start by undercoating in a sealing coat of Mod Podge. As my foam is grey, the base colour showing through isn't a huge issue for me when it's going to end up as stone anyway. So I usually mix it with some tan that helps build up that base coat faster. If your foam is bright pink, you may want to base coat in Mod Podge and black instead. If you do choose to use a tan base coat, I would check on a test piece of foam what the result will look like first. Some foams have issues with it, but if you can get away with it, it makes the process a hell of a lot faster. To mix it up, pour in some Mod Podge and add black or tan as needed until the colour of the mixture is where you want it. For tan, you want it more or less the colour of the paint. With black, I'd stop when it looks sort of mid-grey, which should make it easier to do a coat of tan over as it's a little lighter. If there are any nooks that you missed with your first run, just go back with a smaller brush and more of that Mod Podge and paint mix. Once covered in black or a base layer of tan, you can then build up a solid coat of tan mixed with a splash of water, including in all of the cracks. You don't want any black left over or any shadows left over really. That is what the wash will do. From there, I add variety to the colours of the stone. I left about 30 to 40% of the stone the original tan colour and used 2 to 3 other colours in roughly equal measure on the other bricks. The colours I used were a light grey, which I achieved using a 50-50 mix of neutral grey and white, and a tan grey, achieved by mixing neutral grey with tan again in a 50-50 mix. Finally, I used a reddish brown, for which I used an approximately 3-to-1 mix of tan and raw sienna. I used this colour more sparingly than the other two, as it is quite strong and eye-catching. You'll want to apply these with a small brush, and be careful not to get the colour on neighbouring stone if possible. It doesn't affect things too much if you do go over a little though, so don't panic. Though this red tinted stone has grown on me, it does draw the eye somewhat heavily, so include it at your discretion. In future pieces I may not be including it in the paint job, but if that's the case I'll mention that in the relevant videos. Once you have your colours, dry brush the whole lot with tan again. It'll add a uniform effect to the otherwise radically different colours. A little bit like goths. Uniform non-conformity. A cool little trick for dry brushing is to use your hand as a palette. The warmth from your skin will dry out the paint faster, while the texture of your skin can be used to see if the paint is dry enough yet. If it still paints into the slight cracks of your skin, it's too wet. If you're dry brushing a piece that will be vertical, try to dry brush from the top to bottom, in both this stage and the next. If the piece could be placed many ways, it's probably best to go with a more varied approach to direction. Once the tan layer is done, do one final, quite light dry brush in white. You only want to lightly catch the stone with this. Think of it more as a highlight. If you cover the stone in it, it won't have quite the same effect. On pieces where some parts are more likely to be in shadow, like this battlement, I didn't do any white dry brushing on the shaded areas, and generally went lighter on it in more secluded corners. Finally, finish with a thick coat of the black wash I showed you how to make at the beginning of the video. Be careful while holding it in this step, and lay the piece to dry in the manner that you would use it once complete, so place a wall upright and so on, so that the wash falls into the recesses and it looks shaded. It is important though to try and soak up any excess that gathers at the bottom of the piece with a dry brush to avoid thick dark patches from pooling there. And there's it finished. Probably not the best version of this paint scheme I've ever done. I went a bit light on the wash initially and tried to compensate with more later. It's ended up making it darker than usual, which you can see here next to one of the prototype pieces. So learn from my mistake and do a solid thick wash first time. These pieces are already pretty durable. To avoid them chipping and also to take away any glisten still present from the wash, I then gave the piece a thin layer of thinned down quite watery Mod Podge. As this is foam, I avoid spraying it just in case I've missed any spots when sealing, because I'm paranoid. I know that in the US there's a type of spray that apparently doesn't melt foam. I think it's called Minwax. I can't vouch for this product simply because I couldn't find it in the UK. Sucks to be me, I guess. Since recording this, I've actually come across a range of water-based sprays available from a Spanish company that seems to work well in the tests that I've done so far. I'm still wary of saying go out and grab some, as I haven't finished testing, but the range seems very promising and has a ton of colours that are perfect for base coating terrain, as well as a matte sealant for, well, sealing. I'll leave a link to where I bought them in the description, and then you guys can make your own decision about whether you use it. It should massively speed up the painting process though. Finally, if you're aiming to speed up your painting of these projects and you're happy with a more monotone effect, you could strip out the varied colours. This would mean you'd only use tan, over which you'd do one highlighting dry brush in white and then the black wash and Mod Podge seal. With this speed technique, you should be easily able to go back later and add colour to individual tiles if you're careful with the wash. I hope this was useful and that you get a lot out of this terrain. If so, maybe hit subscribe and hit the bell too if you want to see any of the future videos in the series or future videos that I make. That's all from me for now. Until next time, I'll be in the archive.